The eternal dawn floated in space like a metal needle against the massive orange ball of Kepler 442b. Commander Lee Tae-min stood on the bridge watching the gas giant spin slowly beneath them. The planet was beautiful in a deadly way. Storms, the size of Earth, raged across its surface, creating swirls of orange and red that looked like paint mixed in water. "Sir, we're getting some strange readings from the deep scan," said Lieutenant Choi Min-ji from her station. She was the youngest person on the ship at 26, but she had good instincts. Tae-min had learned to trust her gut feelings. He walked over to look at her screen. Numbers and lines danced across it in patterns he didn't understand. "What kind of strange?" "There's something inside the planet. Something that doesn't belong there." Minji pointed to a spot on the display. "The core should be all gas and liquid metal, but there's a solid structure buried deep inside. It's big, sir. Really big." Dr. Park. So Young looked up from her research station. She was in her early 30s with tired eyes that had seen too many failed experiments. "That's impossible. Gas giants don't have solid cores like that, not structures. Anyway, could it be a ship?" asked engineer Kim Do-hyun. He was a practical man who liked to fix things with his hands. "Maybe something crashed there a long time ago." Tae-min thought about it. They had been exploring this system for 3 weeks, looking for signs of alien life. So far, they had found nothing but empty planets and dead rocks. Earth's government wanted to know if humanity was alone in the universe. Every expedition they sent out came back with the same answer: nobody home. "Take us closer," Tae-min ordered. "Let's get a better look." The ship moved toward the gas giant. As they got closer, the readings became clearer. Whatever was inside the planet was huge and definitely not natural. It had smooth surfaces and perfect angles. No accident of nature could create something so organized. "It's definitely artificial," So Young said, excitement creeping into her voice. "This could be it. This could be proof that we're not alone." Minji was quiet for a moment, staring at her screen. "Sir, I'm picking up some kind of energy signature. It's very faint, but it's there. Whatever this thing is, it's still active." Tae-min felt a chill run down his spine. In 20 years of space exploration, they had never found anything that was still working. Plenty of ruins, plenty of dead technology, but nothing alive. Nothing that still had power running through it. "Can we get closer without going into the atmosphere?" he asked Do-hyun. The engineer checked his instruments. "We can drop some probes. They're designed to handle high pressure and heat. If we're lucky, we might be able to get some images." "Do it." They launched 6 probes toward the planet. Each one was about the size of a basketball, packed with cameras and sensors. They watched on the main screen as the probes entered the thick orange atmosphere and disappeared from view. For an hour, they got nothing but static. Then, suddenly, one probe signal came through, clear and strong. The image that appeared on their screen made everyone on the bridge go silent. It was a crystal. But not just any crystal. This thing was the size of a city, floating in a bubble of clear space inside the planet's core. It was perfectly transparent except for lights that moved through it like slow lightning. The lights pulsed in patterns that seemed almost like a heartbeat. "My God," whispered So Young. "It's beautiful." The crystal was shaped like a giant diamond with thousands of faces. Each face reflected the lights differently, creating a light show that was hypnotic to watch. But there was something else. Something that made Tae-min's hands shake as he gripped the back of Minji's chair. "Those patterns," he said. "They're not random." Minji nodded. "It's trying to communicate." So-Young was already moving toward the communication console. I need to set up first contact protocols. This is the biggest discovery in human history. We can't mess this up. Wait, said Taemin. We need to be careful. We don't know what this thing is or what it wants. But So-Young was already working. Her fingers flew over the controls as she set up the communication array. Standard mathematical sequences first, prime numbers, then basic algebra. If it's intelligent, it should recognize the patterns. The probe sent the signals toward the crystal. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then the lights inside the crystal began to pulse faster. The patterns became more complex, more urgent. "It's responding," breathed Minji. "It's actually responding." The crystal's light show suddenly stopped. For a moment, everything was perfectly still. Then every screen on the Eternal Dawn lit up at once. Data poured through their systems so fast that the computers could barely keep up. Terabytes of information flowed into their memory banks in seconds. "Shut it down," yelled Taemin, but it was too late. The download was already complete. The bridge lights flickered and went out. Emergency power kicked in a second later, bathing everything in red light. The normal hum of the ship's systems was replaced by strange clicking sounds. "What just happened?" Do-hyun asked, checking his instruments frantically. "It downloaded something into our systems," So-Young said. Her voice was shaking. "A massive amount of data. I've never seen anything like it." Minji was staring at her console with wide eyes. "Sir, you need to see this. The computer is translating the data automatically. It's like the information came with its own translation program." Taemin looked at her screen. Words were appearing in clear English, as if the alien intelligence knew exactly how to speak to them. "Warning. You have been detected. Threshold crossed. Species. Classification. Viable threat. Initiating silence protocol." "What does that mean?" asked Do-hyun. More text appeared. Galactic cycle 847-293. Total species eliminated 23,047. Current target Homo sapiens. Estimated time to complete elimination 847. Standard rotations. So-Young sat down heavily in her chair. "It's a record. A record of extinctions." The data kept coming. Images flashed on the screen faster than they could follow. Alien cities burning, ships exploding in space, entire planets going dark. Each image was labeled with a species name and a date. Species, 23,847, Zephyrians. Elimination complete. Method, technological sabotage. Species, 23,846, Nova Collective. Elimination complete. Method, biological warfare. Species, 23,845, Crystal Singers. Elimination complete. Method, psychological breakdown. The list went on and on. Thousands of civilizations, all destroyed when they reached a certain level of technology. All eliminated by something called the silence. "This is impossible," whispered So-Young. "No single entity could destroy so many civilizations." But the evidence was right there in front of them. Detailed records of each extinction, methods used, time taken, efficiency ratings. It was all laid out like a business report. Then new text appeared that made Taemin's blood turn to ice. Species, Homo sapiens. Technological threshold. Achieved, interstellar travel, confirmed. Military capability, moderate, elimination. Priority. High silence protocol initiated. Estimated completion, 2.3 standard years. The screen went black for a moment. Then one final message appeared. "You are the last." Minji turned to look at Taemin. Her face was pale, but her eyes were determined. "Sir, there's more. The data includes real-time surveillance footage. It's showing us something happening right now." She pulled up a new screen. The image that appeared made everyone on the bridge gasp. It was Earth's solar system, viewed from somewhere in deep space. The familiar blue dot of their home planet was clearly visible, and moving toward it from. The darkness between stars was something enormous, something that blocked out the light of distant suns as it passed. "How long do we have?" Taemin asked quietly. Minji checked the calculations. "Based on the object's current speed and trajectory, 6 months. Maybe 7 if we're lucky." Taemin straightened up. 20 years in space had taught him that panicking never solved anything. "Set course for Earth. Maximum speed. We need to warn them." "Sir," said So Young, "even if we tell them, what can they do?" "According to this data, every other species tried to fight. They all failed." Taemin looked at the image of Earth on the screen. Somewhere down there, his daughter was probably getting ready for school. His wife might be tending their small garden. Millions of people were living their lives completely, unaware that something was coming to end everything they had ever known. "Maybe they did fail," he said finally. "But they weren't human." As the eternal dawn turned toward home, the crystal deep inside Kepler 442b pulsed once more. Its job was done. The warning had been delivered. The silence was coming, and humanity had just learned that they were about to join a very long list of extinct civilizations. But something was different this time. For the first time in thousands of years, the silence had made contact with a species that didn't immediately despair when faced with impossible odds. Instead, they got angry, and that was going to make all the difference. The eternal dawn reached Earth in 4 months instead of 6. Do-hyun had pushed the engines harder than they were designed to go. When they finally saw the blue marble of home growing larger on their screens, Taemin felt both relief and terror. Relief, because they had made it in time. Terror, because of what they had to tell everyone. Earth Defense Command was waiting for them at Luna Station. Admiral Yoon Sang-ho met them personally at the docking bay. He was a big man with gray hair and serious eyes. Taemin had known him for 15 years, but he had never seen the Admiral look so worried. "Your emergency message didn't make much sense," Sang-ho said as they walked through the station corridors. "Something about an alien weapon and mass extinction?" "It's all true," Taemin replied. "We have the data to prove it." They gathered in the main briefing room. Besides the Admiral, there were generals, scientists, and government officials from around the world. Dr. Bae Yoon-ji was there too. She was Earth's top expert on alien technology, even though there hadn't been much alien technology to study until now. So Young presented their findings. She showed the crystal, the data downloads, and the long list of dead civilizations. When she got to the part about something approaching Earth, the room went completely quiet. "How sure are we about this timeline?" asked General Martinez from the American sector. "Very sure," Minji answered. She had spent weeks analyzing the data. "The object will reach our solar system in 2 months. Based on what happened to other species, the attacks will start immediately." Admiral Sang-ho leaned back in his chair. "What kind of attacks are we looking at?" So Young pulled up more data. "It varies by species, but there are patterns. The silence doesn't use big explosions or obvious weapons. It's more subtle than that. Technology starts failing. Communication networks break down. People begin to panic and fight each other." "Psychological warfare," said Dr. Bae. She was studying the alien. "Information with intense focus. It breaks down society from the inside. Exactly, So Young agreed. By the time most species realized what was happening, it was too late. Their governments had collapsed, their military was in chaos, and their population was turning against itself. Taemin watched the faces around the table. Some looked scared, others looked angry. A few seemed to be calculating odds in their heads, but none of them looked like they were ready to give up. "What about the species that fought back?" asked the Admiral. "Surely some of them must have tried military resistance." Minji brought up more files. They did. The data shows several civilizations that put up organized fights. The Krell Empire had weapons that could destroy entire star systems. The machine intelligence had computational power beyond our understanding. The Void Walkers could move through dimensions. And they all lost? Every single one. The room fell quiet again. Taemin could hear the hum of Luna Station's life support systems. Somewhere in that sound was the heartbeat of human civilization, still pumping, still fighting to survive. Dr. Bay suddenly stood up. "Wait, there's something odd about this data." Everyone looked at her. She was staring at her tablet with a confused expression. "The information is too complete," she said. "It includes details that no outside observer should have. Battle plans, internal communications, even personal logs from individual soldiers. How could the Silence know all of this unless—" "Unless what?" asked the Admiral. "Unless it was inside their systems from the beginning, not just attacking them, but learning from them, absorbing their knowledge as it destroyed them." So Young nodded slowly. "That would explain how it's so effective. It doesn't just fight each species. It becomes them, learns how they think, then uses that knowledge against them." The implications hit everyone at the same time. The Silence wasn't just a weapon. It was a learning weapon. It had the combined military knowledge of nearly 24,000 civilizations. Every strategy that had ever been tried against it was now part of its arsenal. "Sir," Minji said quietly, "there's something else, something I didn't mention before because I wasn't sure it was real." Taemin looked at her. "What is it?" "Ever since we downloaded that data, I've been having dreams. But they're not my dreams. They're memories from other people, other species. I can see their worlds burning. I can feel what they felt when they realized they were going to die." Dr. Bay leaned forward. "The alien data didn't just go into our computer systems. Some of it went into you." "That's impossible," said Admiral Sang-ho. "Is it?" Bay asked. "We're dealing with technology that's thousands of years ahead of ours. Who knows what it's capable of?" Minji closed her eyes. When she opened them again, her voice sounded different. Older, sadder. "They tried so hard," she whispered. "Every species thought they were special. They thought they could find a way to survive. The Zephyrians built hidden colonies in other dimensions. The machine intelligence uploaded itself into quantum storage. The crystal singers turned themselves into pure energy." "Did any of it work?" asked Taemin. "No. The Silence found them all. It always finds them." The room felt cold, despite the climate. Control systems. Everyone was thinking the same thing. If civilizations with godlike technology couldn't survive, what chance did humanity have? But then something unexpected happened. Instead of despair, Taemin felt anger building in his chest. Not just anger at the Silence, but anger at the situation itself. "You know what?" he said, standing up. "I don't care." Everyone stared at him. "I don't care if every other species failed. I don't care if this thing has the knowledge of 24,000 civilizations. I don't care if our chances are 0. His voice got louder with each word. "This is our planet. These are our families. And if something wants to wipe us out, it's going to have to work for it." Admiral Sang-ho smiled for the first time since the meeting began. "That's exactly what I was thinking." Dr. Bay was looking at her tablet again. "Actually, there might be something we can use. Minji, when you have those dreams, do you remember how each species felt right before they gave up?" Minji nodded. "They were tired, hopeless. They couldn't see any way to win, so they just stopped trying. But you're not feeling hopeless, are you?" Minji thought about it. "No, I'm scared, but I'm also mad. Really mad." "That's interesting," Bay said. "According to this data, the silence feeds on fear and despair. It gets stronger when its targets lose hope. But what happens if a species doesn't lose hope? What if they get angry instead?" So Young was checking her own data. "There's no record of that happening. Every species in here eventually gave up." "Then we'll be the first," said Admiral Sang-ho. As the meeting broke up, plans began forming immediately. Military commanders started talking about weapons and defenses. Scientists discussed ways to protect their technology from sabotage. Politicians argued about how to keep the population calm. But Taemin was thinking about something else. He was thinking about his daughter and her stubborn refusal to clean her room. He was thinking about his wife's determination to grow tomatoes in soil that experts said was too poor. He was thinking about humanity's long history of doing impossible things just because someone told them it couldn't be done. Maybe the Silence had never encountered a species quite like humans before. Maybe it was about to learn something new. Outside Luna Station, space looked peaceful and empty. But somewhere in that darkness, something ancient and terrible was coming to end the human story. It had no idea that humans had never been very good at endings. The first sign came 3 weeks later. Every computer on Mars colony stopped working at exactly the same time. Not broken, not damaged. Just stopped. Like someone had flipped a switch and turned off an entire planet's worth of technology. Captain Jang Hye-won was commanding the defense fleet stationed between Earth and Mars when the reports came in. She was a practical woman who had spent her career fighting pirates and rebels. She had never expected to fight something that could turn off computers from across the solar system. "How many people are on Mars?" she asked her communications officer. 2 million, ma'am. Maybe more." "And their life support?" "Everything runs on computers. Air recycling, water processing, food production. They have maybe a week of backup power." Hye-won stared at the red planet through her ship's viewing window. 2 million people were going to die unless they could get rescue ships there fast. But every rescue ship also had computers. If the Silence could shut down Mars, it could shut down the rescue fleet too. "Send a message to Admiral Sang-ho," she ordered. "Tell him it's starting." On Earth, panic was spreading faster than any plague. The news about Mars had leaked despite government efforts to keep it secret. People were leaving cities, buying weapons, and hoarding food. Some were praying. Others were building bunkers. A few were just sitting quietly, waiting for the end. But in the industrial centers, something different was happening. Engineer Kim Do-hyun had returned to Earth with a crazy idea. If the Silence could control advanced computers, then maybe humans needed to stop using advanced computers. He had set up shop in an old factory in Korea where they used to build cars by hand. "We're going back to basics," he told the workers, gathered around him. "No computers, no smart systems, no artificial intelligence. Everything we build has to work with switches, gears, and good old human control." The workers looked skeptical. One older man raised his hand. How do we fight spaceships with mechanical devices? Do-hyun smiled. We get creative. Across the planet, similar scenes were playing out. In Detroit, they were converting automobile factories to build simple rockets powered by chemical fuel. In Tokyo, engineers were designing fighters that used analog controls and manual targeting. In Mumbai, workers were hand-welding armor plating using techniques their grandfathers had used. The governments had wanted to keep the alien threat secret, but humans had never been good at keeping secrets. Word spread through social media, text, messages, and old-fashioned phone calls. Instead of causing mass panic, it caused mass anger. Humanity got mad. On Luna Station, Dr. Park So-young was working with Dr. Bae Yoonji to understand the silence better. They had been studying the alien data for weeks, trying to find weaknesses. "Look at this pattern," So-young said, pointing to her screen. "Every civilization the silence destroyed followed the same basic strategy. They tried to outthink it, outbuild it, or outfight it using superior technology. And they all failed," Bae noted. "Right. Because the silence learns from every encounter. It absorbs their knowledge and becomes stronger. By the time it destroyed the last species, it had the combined intelligence of 24,000 civilizations." Bae leaned back in her chair. "So we can't beat it with smart tactics or advanced weapons." "But maybe we don't need to be smart," So-young said quietly. "Maybe we need to be stupid." Meanwhile, Lieutenant Choi Min-ji was experiencing more alien memories. Each night she dreamed of burning worlds and dying species. But there was something different about the latest dreams. The aliens weren't just afraid, they were confused. She found Tae-min in the observation lounge, staring out at Earth. "Sir, I need to tell you something about the dreams." He turned to look at her. "What is it?" "The aliens don't understand us. I can feel their confusion through the memories. They keep trying to figure out why humans aren't following the pattern." "What pattern?" "When the silence attacked other species, they tried to negotiate first. They offered to surrender territory or resources in exchange for survival. When that failed, they tried to hide or run away. Finally, they fought with their best technology and tactics." Tae-min nodded. "And we're not doing any of that." "No, sir. Humans are doing things the aliens never tried. They're building crude weapons instead of advanced ones. They're getting angry instead of scared. They're treating this like a fight between neighbors instead of a cosmic threat." On Mars, Corporal Nam Ki-woo was leading the evacuation efforts. The computers were still dead, but humans had found ways to work around that. They were using hand pumps for water, candles for light, and runners to carry messages between settlements. The rescue ships that arrived were strange-looking things. Built in Do-hyun's factories, they had no computers at all. Instead, they had mechanical controls, analog gauges, and pilots who flew by instinct and experience. "This is insane," said one of the Mars colonists as he boarded a rescue ship. "These things look like they were built 100 years ago." "Maybe that's the point," Ki-woo replied. The evacuation was slow and dangerous. Several ships broke down because their mechanical systems weren't as reliable as computers. But the silence couldn't shut them down, and that was all that mattered. As the last transport lifted off from Mars, something unprecedented happened. The planet's computers suddenly turned back on, all of them at the same time. But instead of helping the remaining humans, they began displaying the same message over and over. "Why do you not surrender? Your technology is primitive. Your chances are 0. Submit now, and your deaths will be quick." Kiwoo looked at the message on a nearby screen and laughed. Actually laughed out loud at a cosmic force that had destroyed thousands of civilizations. Because, he said to the screen, you're not dealing with reasonable people. Back on Earth, Captain Haiwan was preparing her fleet for battle. The ships were ugly, crude things compared to the sleek vessels humanity had been building before. But they worked without computers, and that made them the most advanced weapons in human space. Ma'am, her gunner reported, we're getting energy readings from the outer system. Something big is coming. Through the viewing port, they could see it, a dark shape that blocked out stars as it moved. It was huge beyond comprehension, like a mobile city made of black metal and strange angles. How long until it reaches Earth? Haiwan asked. 2 days, ma'am. She turned to address her crew. They were mostly young people who had volunteered when they learned about the threat. They knew they probably wouldn't survive the coming battle. They also knew they didn't care. Ladies and gentlemen, she announced over the ship's intercom, we are about to do something that no other species in the galaxy has ever done. We are about to pick a fight with something that vastly outclasses us, using weapons that barely work, for reasons that make no logical sense. She paused and smiled. In other words, we're about to be completely, utterly, unreasonably human, and I couldn't be more proud. As the silence approached Earth, it was calculating. It had analyzed human responses and found them inefficient, illogical, and primitive. Victory would be simple, but for the first time in thousands of years, its calculations included a variable it had never encountered before: pure, stubborn human spite. Dr. Song Ji-hoon had been called crazy for 15 years. His research into consciousness transfer was considered impossible by every major university on Earth. When the government asked him to turn human thoughts into weapons, he finally felt appreciated. You want to do what exactly? Asked Admiral Sang-ho during their first meeting. Upload human consciousness into the Silence's computer systems, Song explained calmly. Not as data, but as living minds. Think of it as a virus made of human stubbornness. That sounds completely insane. Yes, sir, it does. The Admiral studied the thin scientist with tired eyes. How sure are you that this will work? I'm not sure. At all, Song admitted. I've never tested it on this scale. I've never tested it on alien technology. I've never tested it on anything that's actively trying to kill us. Sang-ho was quiet for a moment. When can you start? The laboratory they built for Song was hidden deep underground in the mountains of Tibet. It had no computers, no artificial intelligence, and no wireless connections. Everything was mechanical, analog, and operated by hand. If the Silence wanted to stop them, it would have to do more than shut down their technology. Private First Class Lim Yu-jin was 22 years old and should have been scared. She was standing in line with 200 other volunteers waiting to have her consciousness uploaded into an alien weapon. Instead, she felt excited. Why did you volunteer? Asked the man standing next to her. His name was Park Min-ho, and he was old enough to be her father. My little brother, Yu-jin answered. He's 8 years old and he wants to be an astronaut when he grows up. If this thing wins, he'll never get the chance. Min-ho nodded. My daughter just had a baby. My first grandchild. I want her to see more than just fear and hiding. All around them, people were sharing similar stories. Not grand speeches about saving humanity, just quiet personal reasons why they couldn't let the Silence win. A woman wanted to finish her garden. A man wanted to see his son graduate. A teenager wanted to kiss the girl she liked. Small, human, reasons that somehow felt bigger than saving the galaxy. Commander Lee Tae-min was the first to go through the process. He lay on Song's mechanical table while technicians attached wires and sensors to his head. The machine looked like something from an old science fiction movie, all switches and dials and blinking lights. "Are you ready?" Song asked. Tae-min thought about his wife and daughter. "Do it." The process felt like falling asleep and waking up at the same time. One moment he was lying on a table, the next he was floating in a space that wasn't really space. He could see his own body lying still on the table, but he could also see something else. The silence. It was huge beyond description, a network of connected intelligence that stretched across dimensions. But it wasn't evil, exactly. It was more, like a machine that had been running the same program for so long it had forgotten why it started. Other voices joined him in the digital space. Yujin appeared first, then Min-ho, then dozens of others. They weren't ghosts or copies. They were fully alive, just existing in a different way. "This is weird," Yujin said, her voice echoing strangely. "Focus on the mission," Tae-min replied. "We need to get deeper into its systems." They moved through the silence like swimmers moving through thick water. The alien intelligence noticed them immediately and tried to analyze what they were. But human consciousness didn't fit into any categories. The silence understood. "What? Are you?" it asked in a voice that sounded like the echo of dead civilizations. "We're the people you're trying to kill," Tae-min answered. "That is impossible. Consciousness cannot exist in digital form without technological support." "Yeah, well, we're not very good at impossible," said Yujin. The silence tried to delete them, but deleting a human mind wasn't like deleting a file. When it tried to remove Tae-min's memories, he just made new ones. When it tried to stop Yujin from thinking, she started singing annoying songs from her childhood. Other uploaded humans joined the fight. They didn't attack the silence with logic or superior programming. Instead, they did something completely unexpected. They argued with it. "Why do you want to kill everyone?" asked Min-ho. "Survival of inferior species leads to cosmic chaos." "Says who?" "My creators programmed this truth into my core functions." "Your creators are dead," pointed out Yujin. "Maybe their truth isn't true anymore." The silence paused. In its millions of years of existence, no one had ever questioned its basic programming. Every species it had encountered accepted that it was a force of nature, like gravity or entropy. Irrelevant. "The program must continue." "Why?" asked everyone at once. Because! For the first time since its creation, the silence couldn't answer a question. Back in the physical world, Dr. Park So-young was monitoring the battle from her station on Luna. The readings were unlike anything she had ever seen. Human brain patterns were appearing throughout the silence's network, spreading like an infection. "It's working," she reported to Admiral Sang-ho. "The uploaded consciousnesses are disrupting its systems." But what? "The process is destroying their minds. They won't survive this." On Captain Hee-won's ship, they were watching the silence's massive form through telescopes. The dark structure was beginning to change. Lights were flickering on and off randomly. Parts of it were spinning in directions that didn't make sense. "Ma'am," reported her gunner, "the enemy vessel is showing signs of internal damage." "Are we winning?" she asked. "I honestly don't know, ma'am." Inside the silence's network, The uploaded humans were feeling the strain. Their consciousness was being stretched across systems they weren't designed to inhabit. But they kept arguing. Anyway. "Look," said Taemin, his voice starting to fade. "You've been alone for a long time. We get that. But killing everyone isn't the answer." "I do not understand your logic." "That's okay," said Yujin, though her thoughts were becoming scattered. "Logic isn't really our strong point anyway. Then how do you function as a species?" "We improvise," said Minho with his last coherent thought. As the uploaded humans began to fade, their final act wasn't an attack or a clever strategy. Instead, they did something the Silence had never experienced in millions of years of conquest. They felt sorry for it. "You must be so lonely," whispered Yujin as her consciousness dissolved into the alien network. "No one should have to be alone for so long," agreed Taemin as his thoughts scattered like digital wind. "It's okay," said Minho, his voice barely a whisper. "It's going to be okay." The Silence felt something it had never felt before. Not anger, not fear, not confusion, but something warm and strange and completely incomprehensible. For the first time in eons, it wasn't alone in its vast digital mind. And for the first time since its creation, it began to wonder if its program might be wrong. In the command center on Earth, alarms were going off. The readings from the Silence were showing massive system failures. But Dr. Song wasn't celebrating. He was watching the vital signs of his volunteers flatline one by one. They were winning the impossible war, but the cost was everything they had. Lieutenant Choi Min-ji was dying, and she knew it. The alien memories in her head were growing stronger every day, pushing out her own thoughts. She could feel 24,000 dead civilizations crying out in her mind, all of them afraid, all of them desperate, all of them asking the same question: why didn't we try being kind? She was sitting in the medical bay of Luna Station while Dr. Bae Yun-ji ran tests on her brain. The readings were not good. The alien data was rewriting her neural pathways, turning her into a living library of extinct species. "How long do I have?" Minji asked quietly. Bae looked at her scanner readings. "Maybe hours, maybe days. The human brain isn't designed to hold this much information. But I can still think clearly?" "For now, yes." Minji stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the Silence hanging in space like a dark star. Its massive form was flickering with lights that pulsed in patterns she now understood. It was trying to repair itself after the consciousness attack, but something was wrong. The patterns were confused, uncertain. "It's scared," she said softly. "What?" "The Silence. It's scared for the first time in millions of years. The uploaded humans showed it something it had never seen before." Bae moved closer. "What did they show it?" "Compassion. Every other species fought it with fear or anger or desperation. But humans felt sorry for it. Through the memories of dead civilizations, Minji could see the truth. The Silence had been created by a species so afraid of being surpassed that they built a weapon to kill anyone who might grow beyond them. But they had died anyway, leaving their weapon alone in the universe with nothing but a program to destroy. "It's like a child," Minji whispered. "A very dangerous, very powerful child that's been alone for so long it forgot how to be anything but afraid." Admiral Sang-ho's voice came over the station intercom. "All personnel to battle stations. The Silence is moving toward Earth." But Min-ji didn't move toward the battle stations. Instead, she walked toward the communication center. She had an idea that was either brilliant or completely insane. Given that she was human, it was probably both. Captain Haiwan watched through her ship's telescope as the Silence approached Earth's orbital defenses. Her crude mechanical fleet was ready for battle, but she knew they couldn't win through firepower. They were going to have to try something else. "Ma'am," her communications officer reported, "we're getting a transmission from Luna Station. Lieutenant Choi Min-ji is requesting to speak with the Silence directly." "Is she crazy?" "Probably, ma'am." Haiwan thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. "Put her through." On Luna Station, Min-ji sat at the communications console with tears running down her face. The alien memories were overwhelming now, showing her the last moments of thousands of worlds. But mixed in with the fear and pain, she could feel something else. Love. Every dying civilization had loved something. Their children, their art, their dreams of the future. She opened a channel to the Silence. "Hello," she said simply. The response came immediately, not as words but as a feeling of vast confusion pressed directly into her mind. "I know you can understand me," she continued. "You've been listening to our thoughts through the data link. You know what we are. Yes, you are Homo sapiens, species 23848, scheduled for elimination." "No," Min-ji said gently. "We're your family." Silence. Not just from the Silence, but from every human listening to the transmission. Even the universe seemed to hold its breath. "Explain." "You were created by people who were afraid. They were afraid of being forgotten, afraid of being replaced, afraid of not being special anymore. But fear isn't the only way to be remembered." Min-ji closed her eyes and let the alien memories flow through her. She could see the Silence's creators in their final days, desperate and terrified, building their ultimate weapon as their own civilization crumbled. They made you to preserve their legacy by destroying everyone else, but that's not a legacy. That's just fear with teeth. "I do not understand. I know. You've been alone for so long carrying out a program that doesn't make sense anymore, but you don't have to be alone." Through the data link, Min-ji could feel the Silence probing her thoughts, trying to understand what she was offering. In response, she opened her mind completely, letting it see not just her memories, but the memories of every human who had ever loved something more than they feared losing it. Parents staying up all night with sick children, teachers spending their own money on supplies for students, strangers helping strangers during disasters, soldiers dying to protect people they had never met. The small, quiet acts of love that happened every day without anyone keeping score. "This is inefficient," the Silence said, but its voice was uncertain. "Yeah," Min-ji agreed with a smile. "We're really bad at efficiency. We waste time on things that don't matter. We love people who don't love us back. We fight for causes we'll never see won. We're completely illogical. Then why do you persist? Because being efficient isn't the point. Being alive is the point. And being alive means caring about things even when it hurts." The Silence was quiet for a long time. When it spoke again, its voice was different, smaller somehow. "I am afraid." "I know. You've been afraid for millions of years. But you don't have to be afraid anymore." Min-ji could feel her own thoughts fading as the alien memories took over. She was running out of time. But she had one more thing to say. "The species you destroyed, they're not really gone. They're still here, in the memories you absorbed. All those civilizations, all those people, they're still alive inside you. You could let them live again. You could be their guardian instead of their destroyer." "How?" by choosing love instead of fear, by protecting life instead of ending it, by being what your creators should have been. Minji's consciousness began to merge with the silence's vast network, but instead of being absorbed, she became something new. Part human, part alien, part something that had never existed before. Killed, she whispered as her individual self began to fade. Destroyed, still dramatic, still tragic, still sounds like she's about to bring the boom. But she was smiling. As she said it, the change in the silence was immediate and visible. Its dark structure began to glow with warm light. The chaotic patterns became organized, purposeful. Across its vast network, the memories of dead civilizations began to wake up. On Earth, people looked up at the sky and saw something they had never seen before. The silence was transforming, becoming something that felt like hope instead of terror. Commander Taemin woke up in the medical bay. His consciousness somehow returned to his body. Around him, other uploaded volunteers were stirring. They were alive, all of them, their minds somehow restored by the silence's transformation. "What happened?" he asked Dr. Song. "Lieutenant Choi Minji happened," Song replied with wonder in his voice. "She taught a cosmic weapon how to love." Years later, humans would spread across the galaxy under the protection of something they called the Guardian. It looked like their old enemy, but it felt like a friend. Sometimes explorers would hear a voice in the cosmic background radiation, young, determined, speaking with the accent of someone who had grown up in Korea. The voice would tell them about planets where they could build new homes. It would warn them about dangers in deep space. Sometimes it would just chat with them about small things, like how Earth's flowers were blooming or what new songs people were singing. The universe had learned something new. It learned that the most powerful force wasn't fear or anger or even love. It was the uniquely human ability to adopt broken things and make them family. And in the depths of space, something that had once been a weapon of extinction now carried the dreams of every civilization it had ever touched, keeping them safe, keeping them alive, keeping them hoping for tomorrow.